In the 5th year of our marriage, Edmund kept a cold yet alluring ballet dancer on the side, a woman named Gloria. I heard that the first time Edmund saw Gloria, he was mesmerized by her graceful movements, like a goddess dancing under the moonlight. He pampered her in secret, treating her like a precious treasure, hidden away, unseen by anyone, including me. Yet now, here she was. Gloria came to me on her own. Her eyes were red, filled with accusation as she said, "Edmund doesn't love you anymore. The person he loves now is me. Don't you think it's cruel and selfish to keep him tied down with your marriage? We truly love each other. Please, just agree to a divorce and let us be together." She cried so pitifully, like a helpless victim whose happiness I was cruelly standing in the way of. I found it ridiculous. True love? Falling for another woman's husband, doesn't that make you feel cheap? Her face turned pale at my words, but a moment later, she cried even harder. You're right. I am cheap for loving a married man, you have every right to insult me. I was wrong, but love itself isn't wrong. I just want to be with the person I love. I really love Edmund, and I don't want to leave him. Can't you let us go? Her words were absurd and childish. But to Edmund, she was brave and endearing. He gently wiped away her tears and coaxed her softly, "All right, stop crying. I'll come to you tonight." His words stunned everyone. He was humiliating me, publicly choosing her side. No other mistress had ever received such special treatment. In the past, when other women came to provoke me, Edmund had always handled it himself, ruthlessly. He made it clear. Hazel is my wife. No one is allowed to disrespect her. But tonight, after Gloria ruined my birthday party, not only did he tolerate it, he even had his secretary escort her home. Then, he walked up to me and said in a low voice, "Don't worry. I won't let her cause trouble again. So, don't do anything to her." He was warning me. I didn't respond immediately. Edmund frowned slightly, his gaze cold as ice. Hazel, she's young, she doesn't know any better. He was even making excuses for her. I understand. Don't worry, I interrupted, nodding in agreement. His expression softened slightly, and he reached for my hand. I instinctively pulled away. His face darkened with displeasure, but I only gave him a light smile. I'm going to get some air in the garden. Edmund nodded. Come back soon. We're waiting to cut the cake. I turned and walked away. I could feel his gaze on my back the entire time. But I never looked back. Not once. Outside the banquet hall, rain was falling softly. I lit a cigarette. Through the curling smoke, I suddenly remembered the day Edmund proposed to me. It was raining that day, too. We had known each other since we were 3 years old, fallen in love at 16, and at 23, after his first big business success, he proposed. Hazel, will you marry me? He had knelt on one knee, his hands trembling so much he could barely hold the ring. I looked down at him and asked just one question, will you love me forever? Without hesitation, he promised. Forever. I believed him. But feelings change. When I was 27, Edmund had his first affair, with a young, beautiful girl. When I found out, he knelt before me, crying and begging me not to leave. He swore he would change. But after the first time came the second, then the third, and the fourth. Now, he no longer bothers to hide it. And I no longer bother to fight. I've argued enough. I've seen enough. And now, there's Gloria. She's different. Special. Special enough for Edmund to threaten me on her behalf. If this had happened 3 years ago, I would have been heartbroken. But now? I only felt exhausted and disgusted. Because I knew one thing for certain, no matter how much Edmund doted on Gloria, he would never divorce me. Not because of love, because our marriage was too entangled with business and wealth. Divorce would be messy and bring no benefit to him. He wouldn't do it. And he knew I wouldn't either. I had asked for a divorce more than once, but nothing ever came of it. At first, I stayed because I loved him. Later, it was because I couldn't accept losing. But no matter the reason, after enduring for so many years, I should be used to this by now. Yet tonight, for some reason, I felt tired of it all. I didn't want to keep playing this game with him. The ash from my cigarette fell, burning my fingertips. At that moment, a waiter approached quietly and said, "Madam, Mr. Edmund asked me to tell you, it's time to return and cut the cake." Return? I snapped out of my thoughts. After a moment, I stubbed out the cigarette and smiled faintly. "Tell Edmund, I'm not coming back." When the waiter delivered my words, Edmund's face darkened. The other guests, sensing the tension, tried to soothe him. "She's probably just in a bad mood. Women have their little tempers, you know how it is. Maybe you should go comfort her, Mr. Edmund?" At these words, something shifted in Edmund's heart. He knew Hazel better than anyone. She had loved him deeply since they were kids. He had crossed a line today, saying he'd spend the night with Gloria was too much. He had made a mistake. Concerned, he asked the waiter, was she crying? Hazel had always been sensitive. She cried when she was sad, when she was happy, even when watching a sappy drama. He felt a flicker of guilt. Hazel was his wife. It was her birthday. He shouldn't have embarrassed her. He needed to apologize. But the waiter shook his head. "No, sir." She was smiling, and she looked beautiful. Edmund frowned, caught off guard by the answer. But in the next breath, his face turned cold. "If she wants to throw a tantrum, let her. She's not a child anymore. If she won't come back, so be it." The guests fell silent. 1 hour. 2 hours. 3 hours. Hazel never returned. Edmund's face grew darker as he finally stood and went to the garden. He would scold her for being so immature. But when he arrived, the garden was empty. Only a burnt-out cigarette remained by the trash bin. And a silver ring. His heart clenched. It was the engagement ring he had given her. Over the years, he had gifted her countless jewels, but she cherished that simple silver band the most. Yet now, she had thrown it away. The wind picked up, chilling him to the bone. And in that moment, he knew. Hazel wasn't coming back. After returning to the villa, the first thing I did was contact my lawyer. He was professional and efficient, breaking down the property division for me. After all, this wasn't the first time he had handled my divorce, though, in the past, things always ended unresolved. But this time was different. This time, I was serious. I was focused. I didn't know how much time had passed when my phone rang. It was Edmund. He must have realized that I had left early without telling him, making him lose face. He sounded a little irritated when I answered. "Hazel, what exactly are you trying to do?" I gestured for my lawyer to pause, then said to Edmund in an even, emotionless tone, "I want a divorce." There was a brief pause on the other end of the line. Then, when he spoke again, his voice was lighter. "Because of Gloria?" I didn't answer. He must have thought he guessed right, because he let out a breath, his tone suddenly soothing. "Hazel, she ruined your birthday, that was her fault. It's only natural that you're upset. I'll have her apologize to you right now. Even now." He thought I was just being petty because of Gloria, but he still wasn't willing to let go. It was almost laughable. I let out a soft chuckle, then cut him off, my voice eerily calm. "Edmund, this has nothing to do with anyone else." "Then?" "I'm divorcing you simply because I don't love you anymore. Edmund, the road ahead is long, but I won't be walking it with you." The words left my lips, and it felt like I had finally set down a heavy burden I had been carrying for years. There was a sense of melancholy, but even more than that, there was relief. Edmund was silent for a moment. I could hear the soft tapping of his fingers against his desk, a sign that he was deep in thought. Then, after a pause, he spoke again, his voice low. "This time, what are you making a fuss about?" He still thought I was just throwing a tantrum. That question, I'd heard it so many times before. Every time I caught him cheating. Every time I cried and screamed at him. Every time, he would look at me, exhausted and indifferent, his eyes filled with confusion. "Hazel, all these years, my money, my company shares, they're all in your hands. Those women? They're nothing. Just meaningless distractions. No one can threaten your place. You will always be my wife. Anything you want, anything you wish to buy, you can have it instantly. Look at the women around you, most of them are struggling to make ends meet. Their entire year's salary couldn't even cover the starting bid for one of your rings. Hazel, what are you so upset about? What more could you possibly want? Yeah. What more could I possibly want? A life of luxury. Wealth beyond measure. How many people would kill to have this? Even my own father, after giving Edmund a vicious beating, had pulled me aside and told me, in a roundabout way, to just turn a blind eye. Let it go, he had said. At the end of the day, love doesn't hold a candle to money. I understood that logic. But I couldn't accept it. I couldn't accept that the love we had, the bond forged from childhood sweethearts, from struggling through hardships together, had decayed into nothing but a facade of happiness. I couldn't accept that we had gone from being devoted lovers to two people who couldn't even stand the sight of each other. So I fought. I cried. I threatened divorce again and again, hoping it would make him change, hoping it would bring back his love. But in the end, love turned to hate. I used to think that saying was an exaggeration, love so deep it turns into hate, hate so strong you wish they were dead. But in my darkest days, I believed it. You probably won't believe me, I said, my voice quiet, but there was a time when I really wanted to kill you. And then kill myself. I thought Edmund would be horrified. But instead, he simply asked, then why didn't you? I was caught off guard for a second. Then I let out a soft laugh, my voice barely above a whisper. Because that night, you called me Bobby. My mother passed away when I was young. My father raised me alone, and he gave me a childhood nickname, Bobby. When Edmund found out, he started calling me that, too. He had called me that for many, many years. When we were kids, he would hold my hand, running toward school, laughing as he turned back to me. Bobby, hurry up. We're gonna be late. On our wedding night, he kissed my forehead, his fingers trembling. Bobby, I love you. The day my father passed away, he held me tightly, whispering over and over in my ear. Bobby, you're not an orphan. You have me. Don't be scared. Back then, he loved me the most. But at some point, he stopped calling me Bobby. From then on, I was only Hazel. Hazel. I thought I had forgotten that name. But that night, I had gotten him drunk. I had wrapped my hands around his throat, pressing down, little by little. And when he woke up, still half-dazed from alcohol, he saw my tear-streaked face, not the rope tying his hands. His first reaction wasn't fear. Instead, he frowned and asked, Bobby, why are you crying? Did someone bully you? I froze. In his drunken state, he had forgotten all his betrayals, all the pain he had inflicted on me. All he remembered was that he loved me. That he couldn't stand seeing me cry. So when I told him that he was the one who had hurt me, Edmund panicked instantly. He looked up at me, his voice small, pitiful. Then, I'm sorry, Bobby. I was wrong. You can hit me if you want. Tomorrow, I'll take you out for dessert, okay? When I was young, I had a terrible sweet tooth. But I could never bring myself to spend money on desserts. Edmund would save up just to buy them for me. And every time, when I tried to let him have a bite, he would refuse, until I forced him to take one. Back then, we were poor. But back then, we were in love. Whenever he made me angry, he would always stare at me with those big, pitiful eyes, like a little puppy afraid of being abandoned. Just like he had that night. And so, like a fool, I softened. I let go of his throat. I untied him. And as he called out my name, more and more frantic, I walked out the door. I climbed to the rooftop. Looked down. I thought, if I couldn't kill Edmund, maybe I should just die myself. But before I could do anything, the sky lit up. Fireworks. One after another. Red, blue, pink. Dazzling. Beautiful. Lighting up the entire night sky. Stunning beyond words. Now, staring out at the dark night through my window, I thought back to that moment. My voice was light. Gentle. In that instant, I suddenly didn't want to die. And I was glad I didn't kill you. Otherwise, I would never get to see such beautiful fireworks again. Edmund was silent for a long time. I thought maybe he was horrified by my madness. But after a while, he suddenly asked, "Do you still want to kill me now?" His tone was serious. So I thought about it. Then answered just as seriously. No. "You're not worth it." Edmund refused to agree to the divorce. It had nothing to do with love. After so many years of marriage, our interests were too deeply intertwined. For him, divorce would be a major disruption. Dividing assets would affect the company's public offering. Other than regaining his single status, he had nothing to gain. Edmund was an exceptional businessman. And he never did things that weren't in his best interest. So he ignored it. Just like he had always ignored my tears, he ignored my request. Ignored my lawyer's emails. Ignored the divorce papers. I had no interest in dragging things out. I simply had my lawyer tell him, if he refused to settle amicably, I would take him to court. Then, I packed my bags and left the city. Right before my plane took off, I received a text from Edmund. "Hazel, you know the company is at a critical moment right now. Do you really have to do this? Do we really have to end things like this, after all these years?" I thought for a moment, then replied. Yes. The plane's destination was Country I live in a small seaside town where I can see the ocean just by opening my window. It's beautiful. I joined a tour group. Our guide was a woman who skillfully and accurately led us through local delicacies and famous landmarks. There was a young couple in the group. They were affectionate with each other all day, clearly very much in love. I once saw the boy practicing his proposal speech in private, repeating it over and over again. It took him 3 days to go from clumsy to smooth. Then, at an ancient temple, under a shower of rose petals, he proposed to the girl beside him. "Will you marry me?" He had practiced so many times, yet when he finally asked, he was even more nervous than his first attempt. Clumsy, trembling, but sincere. "I will." The girl, eyes reddened with tears, accepted the ring. Amid cheers and applause, she threw herself into his arms. They held each other tightly, as if embracing the entire world beneath the falling petals. On the way back, while the boy was packing their things, the girl sat down beside me. She gently touched the diamond ring on her finger, cherishing it. Then, she noticed a faint ring mark on my bare ring finger. She blinked and asked, "Are you married?" I nodded. She was naturally chatty, and knowing I had experience made her curious. "How old were you when you got married?" "I just started working this year." "Do you think it's too early for me to say yes?" She was young. In her eyes, I saw hope for the future, deep affection for her partner, and an undercurrent of anxiety about marriage. She was afraid of choosing the wrong person, of taking the wrong path. Unlike me. When I was young and naive, I chose Edmund without hesitation, believing that love could conquer everything. But later, I realized that it was love that caused all the pain. My marriage brought me nothing but endless hurt and tears. It was, without a doubt, a failure. So, I had no place to offer her empty platitudes or romantic advice. I simply told her, I got married at 23. I'm 32 now, and I'm preparing for a divorce. For me, marriage isn't about age. If you love each other, be together. If you don't, separate. Keep it simple. She listened, nodding thoughtfully, before hesitating to ask, "Are you getting a divorce because you stopped loving him?" I smiled and nodded. Yes. We can't stand each other anymore. On the 7th day after Hazel left, Gloria had just finished a performance. Edmund personally went to pick her up. On the way back, Gloria was scrolling through short videos. I got married at 23. I'm 32 now, and I'm planning to get a divorce. Are you leaving because you stopped loving him? Yes. We can't stand each other anymore. Edmund's body tensed. He turned his head sharply. He couldn't see the woman's face, but he knew the voice. It was Hazel. She said she didn't love him anymore. She said she couldn't stand him. It was ridiculous. Absurd. Hazel's mother passed away when she was young, and her father had just died recently. Besides him, she had no one else in the world to rely on. She couldn't leave him. Over the years, she had brought up divorce more than once. But Edmund knew the truth, the one who couldn't bear to let go was her. She couldn't let go of him. More than anything, she wanted a home of her own. Divorce and arguments were just her way of getting his attention. There was no way she didn't love him anymore. That's what he told himself, even as unease crept through his heart. He needed to hear it from her. He pulled the car over, ignoring Gloria's confusion, and took out his phone to text Hazel. But when he opened their chat, his last message asking when she would come home was still unanswered. Above it was a message from her telling him to speak to her lawyer and not to contact her directly. He hesitated for a moment and decided to ask her where she was. A red exclamation mark appeared. Hazel had blocked him. His hand trembled slightly, and a strange emptiness spread in his chest. Just then, he heard the girl in the video ask Hazel, "If he changed his mind and tried to win you back, would you forgive him?" "No." Hazel's voice was soft but unwavering. Edmund's grip on the phone tightened, his jaw clenched. She was lying. Hazel was lying. There was no way she wouldn't forgive him. She loved him. She always had. And he refused to believe otherwise. The day I returned home, Edmund came to the airport to pick me up. He was tall and handsome, holding a large bouquet of roses. He turned heads as he walked toward me. "Welcome back." I didn't take the flowers. His brows furrowed slightly, but he naturally took my suitcase instead. "Bobby, stop being difficult, okay?" He called me Bobby. There was a time when that would have softened my heart, but now it only confused me. Did he even know what he wanted? When I opened the car door, I was surprised to see Gloria sitting inside. I frowned slightly. Edmund hurried to explain. "Hazel, I know you're still upset about Gloria ruining your birthday. I brought her to apologize to you." Gloria lowered her eyes, looking pitiful. "I'm sorry. It's all my fault. Please don't be mad at Edmund." I watched their little show in silence. When Edmund tried to hold my hand, I pulled away. He sighed, as if helpless, and said, "If you don't like her, I'll cut ties with her." "Okay?" The words hit Gloria like a slap. She went pale and stared at Edmund in disbelief. But I refused. No need. Being young has its perks. Edmund was stunned. "What?" Just then, someone knocked on the car window. A young man appeared, and without waiting for an invitation, he opened the door and slid in beside me. He took my hand, intertwining our fingers. "Why did you leave me behind?" Before I could respond, Edmund's face darkened, his eyes fixed on the boy's hand in mine. "Who is he?" The boy turned to him, then looked at me. "Your ex-husband?" I nodded. He flashed a bright, youthful smile that was almost blinding. "Nice to meet you, ex-husband. I'm Fitch, Hazel's boyfriend." His gaze was steady, fearless. Gloria wrinkled her nose in disgust. "You're shameless." Fitch rolled his eyes. "Really? Isn't that funny coming from you? You're his mistress, after all. Who's the shameless one here? If anyone should be embarrassed, it's you." His words hit Gloria like a barrage, leaving her pale and trembling. She looked at Edmund, hoping he would defend her like he always did. But this time, he didn't spare her a glance. "Let's go home," he said. I spoke up. "Take me to my apartment. That's where I lived now." Fitch had followed me back to the country and had nowhere else to stay, so he was living with me. Edmund gripped the steering wheel tightly. "Come home. We need to talk." It wasn't a request. I frowned in irritation, but seeing his expression, I gave in and nodded. Fine. Back at the villa. Everything was still the way I had left it. A bit of a mess. After all, when I left, I took everything valuable that I could carry. Edmund's first words were an interrogation. "Who is he?" I raised an eyebrow. "My boyfriend. Didn't you say you couldn't accept an open marriage? And now you've got yourself a young guy? Had fun these past few days playing around with him?" Edmund frowned, his eyes locking onto mine. There was a casual smirk on his lips, but his gaze was cold. I looked at him and smiled. "Yeah, it was fun. Young guys have great stamina." My bluntness shut him up. I was getting impatient. "Is this what you wanted to talk about? Because if it is, I'm not interested. He's young, he gets nightmares sleeping alone. I should go keep him company." This line shouldn't be unfamiliar to Edmund. He had said the same thing to me once. The memory clearly hit him hard, his expression turned downright ugly. But the next second, he looked at me again, suddenly stepping forward. Standing over me, he gave a small smile. "Hazel, we've both cut ties with them. why don't we start over? The one I love is you. I pushed him away and looked up at him, exhausted. You don't love me. You just can't handle the fact that someone who was supposed to stay suddenly left. It bruised your ego. You've had OCD since you were a kid. If a cookie had a broken corner, you'd rather starve than eat it. And now, you'd rather fool around with a bunch of people outside than let me go, just to keep up the illusion of your perfect marriage. After all these years, no one knows him better than I do. I know his indifference. I know his selfishness. He grew tired of me but couldn't stand the idea of someone else having me. That's not love, that's arrogance. Edmund, you're seriously messed up. Get some help. Edmund left in a hurry. But the next day, he showed up outside my door again. To drive me to and from work. I didn't refuse. Our divorce hadn't gone through yet. We were still, at least on the surface, the perfect high society couple. Edmund started treating me better. No matter what he did, he had to report it to me. Text after text. I didn't read them. I didn't reply. At work, people called me Mrs. Laurent. They knew who I was. I had no interest in the whole 9-to-5 grind. I had money. I wasn't into unnecessary suffering. I held a nominal position, only showing up occasionally. I had friends at the company, which was how I heard about Gloria. During this visit, a friend saw how Edmund kept stopping by my office and asked if he was trying to win me back. I scoffed and invited her out for dinner after work. She agreed, so I sent Edmund a text. Don't pick me up after work. He replied instantly. Then I'll pick you up when you're done. I said yes. After work, my friend and I headed to the parking garage. As she drove, she glanced at me. Edmund and Gloria are over, right? I told you, he still cares about you. No matter how much he liked her, he'd never keep her if it made you mad. I chuckled. Maybe. Gloria had called Edmund a lot these past few days. I had seen it. But Edmund never picked up. Even when I told him. Take it. It might be important. He glanced at me, his expression complicated, frustrated, even hurt. You really don't care? I looked at him and shook my head. No. I had stopped caring a long time ago. But right in front of me, Edmund blocked Gloria's number. Like he really had changed his mind. During dinner, my friend asked, so, now that he's changed, are you still planning to divorce him? I didn't answer. Instead, I looked out the window. The sky was dark, and the streets were empty. A man stood under a street lamp. His face was hidden, but his posture was striking. A girl rushed out of an apartment and threw herself into his arms. The man lowered his head and kissed her softly on the corner of her eye. A car passed by, headlights flashing. I saw their faces clearly. Edmund and Gloria. I watched them for a moment, then took a picture. Just then, my phone buzzed. Edmund. Are you done? I'll come pick you up. No need. I'm not coming home tonight. He replied instantly. Okay. I looked down. Edmund was holding Gloria's hand as they walked into the apartment. Both of them were smiling. At midnight, my phone rang. It was Gloria. She sent me a photo. Edmund, asleep, resting on her chest. Her skin was covered in love bites. Your husband is amazing in bed. He hasn't wanted you in ages, so why are you still clinging to this marriage? Have some dignity. I saved the photo. Then, after a moment of thought, I sent her $5. Note, service fee. Gloria lost it, bombarding me with messages. I didn't read a single one. Instead, I forwarded the photo to my lawyer. Proof of infidelity. Get me the best deal possible. The reply came instantly. Don't worry. I got this. The next morning, when I went downstairs, Edmund was already waiting outside. Good morning, Hazel. He looked refreshed, like a man thoroughly satisfied. He brought me breakfast. My old favorite, sandwiches and milk. I took a few bites absent-mindedly, giving half-hearted responses to his questions. I was blatantly indifferent. Ever since Edmund became successful, no one had ever been this dismissive toward him. His expression darkened. Hazel, Do you have to treat me like this? He stopped the car and looked at me, eyes filled with something close to grievance. As if I was the one who had wronged him. But when he met my calm, detached gaze, he had nothing to say. Then sign the divorce papers. If you can't take this, don't. Silence. Edmund's face turned cold. Not a chance. His stance was firm. I sighed, leaning back against the seat. I wasn't sure if I felt exasperated or just tired. Edmund, you're pathetic. When I loved you, you hurt me. Now that I don't, you refuse to let go. Pathetic. God, you're exhausting. Edmund kept refusing to sign the divorce papers. So, our marriage dragged on like this. But Edmund wouldn't leave me alone. I knew he was trying to keep me from seeing Fitch. Yet, if Fitch couldn't find me, he would wait for me outside my office, clinging to my arm like a spoiled child, asking if I didn't care about him anymore. I smiled and coaxed him, of course, I care. Under everyone's watchful eyes, I managed to send him away. But when I turned around, I saw Edmund standing far off by the entrance, watching me. I had no idea how much he had seen, but he didn't say a word, just turned and left the office, alone. It was as if he were sulking, but I didn't care. It rained today, and the weather was a bit chilly. I went home alone. As soon as I stepped inside, Edmund took my hand and led me to the dining room. Didn't you say you wanted the lamb soup from the south side of the city? I bought it for you. His hand was ice cold. I glanced at him and realized he was completely soaked, his face pale from the cold. Yet his eyes held a trace of hope, almost like he was seeking my approval. I took a sip of the soup and immediately set the spoon down. It tastes a little gamey. You have it. I turned to leave, but Edmund grabbed my wrist. I went out of my way to get this for you because you like it. It took me 2 hours to find the stall. It started raining, and the stall didn't have any cover. I stood in the rain waiting for it. But you only had one sip, and you didn't even ask if I was okay. Hazel, what happened to you? His fingertips trembled, and his eyes were filled with confusion. You didn't used to be like this. So what? I met his gaze, calm and unwavering. I stopped loving you a long time ago. To me, you're just a stranger. Would you expect me to care about a stranger? You think you're making some grand romantic gesture, but why should I be grateful? Isn't that ridiculous? My words seemed to shatter something inside him. You can't possibly not love me, he said, almost desperately. I already investigated everything. Fitch is just a friend. Nothing ever happened between you two. You're only using him to get back at me. Deep down, you still care about me. You love me, don't you? He lowered his gaze, his expression cautious and filled with hope. But I noticed how tightly his fingers curled, his knuckles turning white, as if my answer was his last hope, the thing holding him together. I smiled faintly and crushed that last shred of hope. He's just a friend for now. Life is long. Sooner or later, I'll find someone to spend it with. I was afraid of being alone. After my father passed away, I wanted a family of my own more than anything. So, I never planned to go through life alone. I would always have someone beside me. Man, woman, lover, it didn't matter. Edmund's eyes turned bloodshot. He asked, why can't it be me? It just can't. I didn't hesitate. Ignoring the way his face instantly turned deathly pale, I smiled, turned around, and walked away. I never looked back. Gloria came to see me, holding a pregnancy report. Compared to the cold and aloof woman I first met, she now had a seductive allure, the kind that comes from being adored. It made her even more attractive. No wonder Edmund couldn't let her go. Who would give up a woman like that? She told me she was pregnant and that the only reason Edmund was being nice to me was because he wanted me to accept the child, since I couldn't have children of my own. I raised an eyebrow. Edmund told you I can't have children? What else? Gloria laughed, her tone mocking. Come on, everyone knows it. Of course. In the 3rd year of our marriage, I found out Edmund was cheating on me when I was 3 weeks pregnant. During our argument, I lost the baby. After that, I never got pregnant again. People speculated that the miscarriage left me unable to conceive. I took a sip of my tea, my expression calm and unbothered. It's not that I can't have children. I just wouldn't have his. He doesn't deserve it. If you want to have his child, that's your business. Don't drag me into it. And if he wants a divorce, I'm ready anytime. He's the one holding back. Honestly, you two are a perfect match, pathetic and even more pathetic. Gloria's face turned red with rage. Her voice sharpened. He loves me. You're just a washed-up old woman. I calmly poured my tea over her face. Then I stood up. Looking down at her pathetic, soaked appearance, I spoke coolly. If you're so sure he loves you, then convince him to sign the papers and stop bothering me. I'll be waiting, Gloria. But Gloria wasn't as capable as I thought. She ran to our house and told Edmund about the baby, her face glowing with the gentle pride of a mother-to-be. But his first reaction was to look at me. It was an accident. I always. That one sentence stunned Gloria. But she quickly recovered and clung to his arm. You told me you wanted a child with me. You said you hoped our baby would be as beautiful as I am. How can you say this is an accident? This is the fruit of our love. Tell me you love me. Tell me you're tired of her. Why won't you divorce her? What can she give you that I can't? I love you. We're having a child. Why won't you marry me? Edmund's face turned ice cold as he looked down at her. Get rid of the baby. Gloria instinctively covered her stomach, her eyes filled with desperation. No. I won't. This is our baby. How can you be so heartless? She cried beautifully, pitifully. But when Edmund looked at her belly, there wasn't a trace of warmth in his eyes. Get rid of it. I won't say it a third time. Gloria clamped her hands over her ears, screaming, as if she could block out his cruel words. They stood in a deadlock. Meanwhile, I glanced at the hidden camera capturing everything, watching the scene unfold with cold detachment. Until Gloria, exhausted, finally fainted. Edmund ordered someone to take her to the hospital. I'm sorry, Hazel. I'll take care of this, he promised me. I paused for a moment, then laughed softly. Don't bother. I don't care. The room fell into a heavy silence. Edmund stared at me, his dark eyes filled with turmoil, the corners tinged with a fragile red. You don't care? He seemed to be heartbroken by my indifference. I stared at him, unblinking. It wasn't until he instinctively grabbed my wrist that I realized his fingers were trembling uncontrollably. How can you not care? You should be upset. You cry so easily, why aren't you crying now? Please, don't look at me like that. His voice held a hint of desperation. In that moment, he seemed as if he had sunk to the lowest of lows, desperately hoping for my pity. But all I felt was disgust, the mud, and the man in it. Should I care? We're getting a divorce, you're having a baby, who you have it with, how many, none of it concerns me anymore. Edmund, I don't love you anymore. I watched as he seemed to crumble. But I couldn't help but laugh. We met, so let's at least leave each other some dignity. Sign the papers. Edmund finally signed the papers. He had no choice. Gloria had gone public with her pregnancy, turning their high society scandal into a raging storm. The stock market wavered. The shareholders were furious. Edmund didn't want to face another lawsuit from me. And since his affair was already the talk of the town, my lawyer managed to secure the best possible outcome for me, 70% of all assets. The actual settlement was 60%, my lawyer told me. The remaining 10%, Edmund gave up voluntarily. I smiled and accepted it without hesitation. The day I was truly free, it rained. Maybe I have a strange connection with rainy days. All the major events in my life seemed to happen when it rained, our engagement, our wedding, the day Edmund first cheated, the day I decided to leave, and now, the day our marriage officially ended. Raindrops drizzled down. Edmund stood beside me and said softly, "Let me give you a ride." I shook my head. No need. Someone's coming to pick me up. Right after I said that, Fitch squeezed in between Hazel and me, holding up an umbrella. I'm here. It's cold, you should wear another layer. You're already coming down with something. He kept nagging as he draped a coat over my shoulders. I accepted it without hesitation. Then, I stepped under his umbrella. And just at that moment, the rain stopped. I looked up. The sun broke through the clouds, sweeping away the dreary mist. Warm rays cascaded down, melting away the lingering chill of the rain. I smiled. Then, I turned back. I waved at Edmund. Goodbye. The storm had passed. Goodbye, gloom. Epilogue. On the day of the divorce, Edmund stood there, watching Hazel walk away under another man's umbrella. He could still hear Fitch's loud chatter and Hazel's helpless laughter. But in her eyes, there was a lightness, a freedom he hadn't seen in a long time. He had always known, Fitch was never Hazel's lover. She could never do that. She had once tried, once found a man, and they had acted close. But the moment Edmund saw the man's face, he stopped caring. Because that man looked just like him. She couldn't let go of him. And as long as that was true, she would never truly move on. Sure enough, that ridiculous charade didn't even last a month. After that, Hazel never stepped out of line again. One drunken night, Edmund had mentioned this to a friend. His friend was momentarily stunned. Then, with a scoff, he said, "Maybe she never really loved you. Maybe she just isn't as shameless as you. Edmund, if you keep this up, you're going to lose Hazel for good. And when that day comes, don't regret it." What had he said back then? Edmund thought for a moment before it came to him. He had laughed, full of certainty. Regret? Impossible. Hazel's the one who can't leave me. He had convinced himself that he didn't love Hazel anymore. That he had grown tired of her long ago. And yet, right now, watching her silhouette disappear into the distance, his heart felt like it was being torn apart. Like he had just lost the most important thing in his life. An impulse surged through him, he wanted to run after her. But the moment he took a step forward, he stopped. Because he knew. Hazel wasn't going to turn back. She had once told him. If you love someone, you stay. If you don't, you leave. Edmund, I really don't love you anymore. Let's end this. She had never lied. She didn't love him anymore. Not even a little. Her future would be bright, like the sky after a storm. And he would spend the rest of his life standing in the rain. But no one would care. No one would ever care again. The end.